Hello, my name is Eileen and I'm 60 years old. I know I'm pretty old, but I've heard a lot of stories here and I wanted to tell you one of my own. Let me begin by telling you a little about myself. I got married when I was only 21 years old. I married my high school sweetheart. I was young and in love and I didn't know any better. All I knew was that I wanted to be with him for the rest of my life. But that didn't mean that our relationship was all sunshine and rainbows. My husband was a cruel man, and he was never too shy to insult me and belittle me at all times. I was practically a servant to him. There was never a moment for me to rest. Thankfully, regardless of his verbal abuse, he still let me finish college and get a job. However, I only found out later on that the only reason he wanted me to work was so that he could sit at home while I paid all the bills. So not only was I doing all the housework, but I was also working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. I ended up getting pregnant about 4 years into the marriage, right around the time when I was playing around with the idea of leaving him. I was extremely worried about how I was going to be able to provide for my husband, my child, and myself, because I was struggling already. But in hindsight, I didn't have to worry that much about it either. You see, just 1 year after my son, Chris, was born, my husband just up and left out of the blue. I remember waking up to an empty bed and all traces of my husband gone from the house. The memory is so vivid in my brain only because instead of feeling any heartbreak or panic, all I felt was relief. I felt relieved because in that year, my husband's behavior only got worse. I was worried about how he was going to treat Chris when he was old enough to understand what was going on. So, when my husband left, I was happy to know that my son would grow up in a better environment. That, however, did not change the fact that I was going to be a single mother with no help whatsoever. My parents had practically disowned me the day that I got married, and I was too ashamed to go back to them after so long. But I made things work. I tried my best to parent Chris well, while making sure that we had a roof over our heads and food on our table. Chris was a wonderful child while growing up and only became a little deviant when he entered his teenage years. Looking back, I think he must have gotten mixed up with the wrong crowd, and I was too busy working hard to notice the changes in his behavior. Regardless, he still did well in school, and I was able to save up enough money over the years to be able to send him to college with minimal debt required for him. Chris chose to stay at home with me while he attended college, which was only a 20-minute drive from home. I didn't mind that because I really didn't want to be home alone. About 6 months into college, Chris told me that he had a girlfriend named Hannah. He told me that they started talking because they shared a class and they'd been going on dates for a while. I was happy for him, and I never pushed to find out more than he was willing to tell me. I did ask him once to show me a picture of his girlfriend, but he vehemently refused, and even though I thought that was odd, I dropped it. Just 3 months after Chris told me about his girlfriend, I came home from work to find him frantically packing his clothes into a suitcase. I was alarmed and confused, so I asked him why he was packing his things. "Whoa, why are you packing up everything?" "I'm sorry to do this to you, Mom, but I need to leave the state." "What? What are you talking about?" "So, you know that I've been seeing this girl, Hannah, right?" "Yeah, don't tell me that you're planning on moving away with her or something. You're too young for that." "No, it's the opposite. I'm running away from her." "Why? Did she hurt you?" "No, but I did get her pregnant." "What?" "And she wants to keep the baby. I want no part of that. I'm too young to be a father." "First of all, how could you be so irresponsible, Chris?" "I wasn't trying to be irresponsible, Mom. It was a mistake." "A very grave mistake, that's for sure. But you can't just leave like that." "I can. Hannah won't listen to me, and I do not want to be anywhere near a child. Hannah thinks that I want to be a father, and she believes that once the kid is born, I'll have a change of heart and I'll want to be a family with her. But I don't want that at all. So what? Are you just going to run away? That's going to solve your problem? If I move away, Hannah will finally realize that I don't want to be a father and she'll leave me alone. Chris, this is not how I raised you to be. You can't just run away from the consequences of your actions. You need to step up and be there for Hannah. No way. Do you know how much this is going to ruin my life? You should have thought about that before you were careless. I get it. I made a mistake. Now let me go. I'll text you and call you whenever I can. If you leave this house, I will no longer consider you my son. That's insane. Why are you supporting my girlfriend who you don't even know over your son? I will support my son when he shows me that he's a decent human being. At least deal with all of this legally so Hannah has no option to force the child onto you. That just seems like too much work. This is easier and faster. You can't tell me that it's a bad decision when you know that deep down you agree with me too. I do not agree with you or your choices at all. And if you must know what I feel deep down inside, it's a disappointment. I'm so disappointed with you because no child of mine would be so heartless. Whatever, Mom. I don't have time for any of your emotional dramas. I'm going. Bye. I tried to stand in between Chris and the door, but he gently shoved me away before leaving. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that Chris would be capable of doing something like that. I knew that I couldn't fully blame him. Maybe if I had properly educated him before he started going to college, I could have helped prevent this pregnancy. Even so, I couldn't believe that Chris was the type of person to just run when confronted with a problem. Over the next week, I tried to call him several times, but none of my calls would go through. I didn't know whether he'd blocked me or if he'd disconnected his number. I was worried sick and I spent several nights awake. I tried to get the police involved, but they told me that since Chris had left voluntarily, there was nothing that they could do. Just as my panic was beginning to lessen and I was beginning to come to terms with Chris having left me for good, I got a knock on my door. I opened it to see a woman about Chris's age, and she looked like she had been crying for days, and I could tell because of her swollen red eyes. She greeted me first. Hello, Mrs. Hello, Miss Hanson. Hello. If you don't mind me asking, who are you? I'm Hannah. Oh my gosh, come in. I'm so sorry I didn't recognize you. Chris never showed me any pictures of you. It's okay. I don't think I should have expected anything much from him, really, but speaking of Chris, do you know where he is? Oh, sweetheart, I don't know how to break this to you, but he's run away. What? He told me about what's going on. I tried my best to get him to stay, but he refused to do that. I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. No, please don't apologize. It's my fault. I shouldn't have pushed him to stay with me, but I at least hoped he'd help me out until the baby came along. I told him the same thing, but he refused. I don't know what to do anymore. How am I going to raise this child on my own? Where do I live now? Whoa, hold on a minute. What do you mean by you don't know where you're going to live? Don't your parents live close by? They do, but they kicked me out. They had only one rule for me when I went off to college, and that was to not get pregnant, and now here I am. They refuse to see me or my baby. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry that you have to go through all this. You don't deserve to. My parents were right. No offense, but Chris was not a good guy for me. I fully understand why they must have thought that. I tried my best to bring him up in the right way, but some people just cannot be helped, I guess. But what I can do is try and make up for my son's atrocious actions. What do you mean? What I mean is that I want you and your child to move in with me. I'll take care of you, and I'll help you out as best I can. You have nothing to worry about. I want you to finish getting your degree too. so you can find a good job to support yourself and your child." "Really? You'd do that for me?" "Sweetheart, I know what it's like to be a single mother. I know the troubles that we have to go through, and I do not want that to happen to you. Now that Chris is gone, I can use what money I saved up for him to help you and my grandchild." "Thank you so much, Miss Hanson." "Oh, please call me Eileen. Where are you staying currently?" "I'm living in the dorms at college, but I doubt that I'll be able to live there comfortably while I'm pregnant." "I'll tell you what, how about this weekend I'll help you move out of there, and we could grab your things from your parents' place too, if you'd like." "Really?" "Of course. In the meantime, you need to do all the work that comes with moving from the dorms, like informing your college about the pregnancy and stuff. And if you need my help with that too, don't hesitate to ask." "Thank you so much, Miss Eileen." I couldn't believe that Hannah had been abandoned by everyone who was supposed to help her out, including my son. Finding out that he knew about how her parents disapproved of him, he knew that she would not be able to comfortably go through the pregnancy, and he still chose to leave her. Made my blood boil. Of course, I was very serious about my promise to help Hannah out in every way that I could. The first thing I did after she left was to repurpose Chris's old room. I threw out all the things that belonged to him and made room for all of Hannah's things. I also emptied the spare room that I was using for storage to make room for a nursery. I spent the next week refurbishing the rooms for Hannah and my grandchild, and also helping Hannah get all the paperwork done for university and moving out of her dorm and parents' place. Hannah never stopped thanking me throughout it all, and every time she thanked me, my heart hurt to think about how she had been treated. I knew that I was going to make sure that Hannah didn't struggle again like this. After Hannah moved in, I made sure that Hannah was comfortable. She burst into tears when she saw her room and the nursery, and she would not stop thanking me. I promised her again that I would take care of her in every possible way that I could. I made sure she ate properly and took her to all her doctor's appointments. Finally, when the time came to give birth to her child, Hannah asked that I be there by her side, and let me tell you, I cried hard when she asked me to do that. I was so touched that she trusted me enough to let me be by her side when she was most vulnerable. After 12 hours of labor, Hannah gave birth to a beautiful baby boy named Adrian. Having Adrian at home made me question how I went through taking care of Chris when he was that age all by myself. Newborns are difficult to handle, and they really take everything out of you. But I made sure that Hannah had a good night's rest most days because I wanted her to focus on her studies so she could land a good job. About 1 month after Adrian's birth, I got a call from an unknown number. "Hello? Who is this?" "Hey, Mom, it's me, Chris." "Oh, do you want something?" "Okay, I know that you're mad at me for not contacting you for months. I'm sorry. I had to lay low, so Hannah had no way to contact me." "That's good for you, Chris." "Aren't you worried about me?" "Not really. I haven't had any time to think about you or your well-being." "Wow, why's that? What could possibly be keeping you so busy that you forgot about your son?" "It's more of who's keeping me busy rather than what." "Fine, who is it?" "It's Hannah and her son, Adrian." "What? You're keeping in touch with them?" "I have to keep in touch with them since they live with me now, Chris." "Excuse me? I cannot believe that you let my ex and her baby live in my house." "This is not your house, Chris. And of course I'm letting them stay with me. Someone has to step up and take care of them." "I gave you all my reasoning for not wanting to be a part of all that." "Tell me one thing honestly. Did you know that Hannah's family kicked her out because she was pregnant, and with your child no less?" "Why does that matter?" "So you did know." "Yeah, I did, but I wasn't going to let that change my decision about leaving." "You know, I expected you to at least empathize with the girl before bounding off to God knows where, especially because you grew up with a single mother." Oh God, here we go again with your emotional monologues. You're the one that called me. I was happy not talking to or even thinking about you, but you know exactly why you don't like my emotional monologues. It's because they contain the truth, and you cannot face them because you're a coward. Are you done with this outburst of yours? I called to just check in on you, not hear a lecture about what a bad person or son I am. I really do not like the person that you've become now. It makes me so angry to see how you've become. Then you'll be happy to hear that I'll never be coming home. Do not try to call me again. Like I would want to call someone who could abandon a helpless person when they're at their lowest. I don't expect you to even help me, your own mother, when I need it. Whatever. Bye. It had already been 9 months since I had no contact with Chris, and I don't know with what audacity he had that he thought he could call me and berate me for taking in his ex-girlfriend whom he left after he got her pregnant. I was not joking when I told him that I wouldn't consider him my son if he left. I even made peace with it. I withheld that conversation with Chris from Hannah for a long time, mostly because I didn't want her to feel even more guilty than she already felt for ruining my relationship with my son, and also because I didn't want her to ever get curious enough to want to get in contact with him. She deserved better than that. Over the next few years, Hannah graduated from university with a pretty high rank, and Adrian grew into a lovely child. Adrian was the life and joy of our house. He was very smart and had so much curiosity that I ended up learning about so many things just so I could teach them to him. Hannah managed to score a great job, and after working there for a year, she got a huge promotion which offered her not only a huge pay raise, but also a lot of other benefits, including company housing. Now, of course, if it were up to me, I would never want them to leave, but I also knew that Hannah needed to strike out on her own, so with a heavy heart, I helped Hannah pack hers and Adrian's things and help them move into their new home. The only upside was that their new place was only 10 minutes away from my home. Of course, just because they moved, it didn't mean that I was not going to see them as often. In fact, we all still had dinners together every evening, and I would babysit Adrian after his school hours until Hannah came back from work. Life was going well until one day I began to feel very dizzy and faint. I vaguely remember hearing Adrian yelling and Hannah coming in through the front door. After that, I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Hannah was standing at the foot of the bed and was talking to the doctor. After the doctor left, I asked her what happened to me. What happened? Last thing I remember was feeling very faint and then nothing after. Oh, Eileen, thank God you're okay. You had a heart attack. It's only a miracle that I was there in time to get you help. What? Adrian and I were so worried about you. Are you feeling any better? I think I am. I'm more so just shocked about the whole heart attack thing. Did the doctor tell you what caused it? Stress and your diet. And you don't have to worry too much either. It was a minor attack, so you're in no danger for anything serious as of now. You just need to relax a little more and be more conscious of your diet. I guess, but let's be honest, knowing that I had a heart attack that could happen again is what's going to stress me out more than anything. Hey, it's all right. Adrian and I are going to be here with you. Why don't you tell me what I can do to help you feel better and less stressed? If I'm being very honest, I kind of want to meet a lawyer. A lawyer? Why? Well, this whole episode got me thinking about how I need to get all my ducks in a row, you know. Eileen, you're going to live a long life. You don't have to get so worked up about one minor scare. I know, but I already had my will made a long time ago, right after my husband left me and Chris alone. I obviously set him up to be the sole inheritor of all my assets and money, but I don't want that anymore. Oh, if you don't mind me asking, who are you going to make the inheritor of your assets? You and Adrian, of course. What? Why us? I mean, We love you more than life itself, and you've done more for me in these 14 years than my own parents have, but you don't have to do that. Why don't you donate your things to a charity for single mothers or an orphanage? That's a great idea. I'll donate a portion of my assets to charity and the rest will go to you two. You two are the only family I have remaining. Chris is practically dead to me, and I want to make sure that the two of you are well taken care of even after I'm gone. Okay, let's not talk about you going anywhere right now, although I am very grateful for the fact that you thought about us so much. How about you get some rest for now, and tomorrow we'll find you your lawyer. That sounds perfect. I was genuinely shocked at what had happened to me. I knew I didn't exactly live the healthiest of lifestyles, but I never thought I'd be affected in this manner. The heart episode was a wake-up call for me to get my act together. The next morning, after some more checkups, I was discharged from the hospital. Hannah tried to convince me to go back home and get some rest before doing anything else, but I was adamant about going to a lawyer. I had experienced firsthand how fleeting life could be, and I did not want to waste a second to do the right thing. Hannah drove me to a good lawyer, and I revised my will. I also made sure to add a clause stating that Chris would get absolutely nothing from me. I wanted to avoid all possibilities of Chris getting a hold of my assets. After seeing how disgusting he could be, I was sure that he would contest the will and try to take away everything that I wanted to give Hannah and Adrian. And it was a good thing that I followed my instinct, because only 2 weeks after I amended my will, I had a knock on my door. It was the weekend, so I was home alone. I opened the door and was shocked to see Chris standing in front of me. He looked a lot older, and while he still had the same face, there was something so unrecognizable about him. "Hi, Mom, I'm back." "Oh, God, what are you doing here?" "What? I can't drop in just to check in on my mother?" "You can, but not after 14 years. Why are you really here, Chris?" "I really am here only to check up on you. I missed you, Mom." "Don't even try to lie to me right now, Chris. I have no time for this." "No, seriously, I heard that you had a heart episode recently and I got concerned, so I came over." "Oh, well, I appreciate your concern, but I'm okay now. That being said, I would like you to leave now because I don't want anything to do with you." "Oh, come on now. There's no need to be so mean." "Chris, you did the worst thing possible to Hannah, and then you left for 14 years. You cannot expect me to be nice to you right now." "Are you still in touch with Hannah and her kid?" "Of course. In fact, they'll be coming over here in an hour, and I really want you to leave immediately." "Wow. So you really did not care for me or my feelings at all, huh? I mean, I don't know why I expected anything more out of you. Anyway, the other reason I came here was to ask you what you were leaving me in my inheritance. I need to make some life-altering plans, and I need to know what exactly I'm getting." "Why will you get anything from me? I have no son to give my inheritance to." "You can't be serious right now. Are you really telling me to my face that you have no care for me? I made one decision that you didn't like, and you're punishing me by taking away my potential future?" "What are you even talking about? I sacrificed everything to make sure you had a better life. I tried my best to raise you well, and you threw all my efforts down the drain the second you abandoned the girl you impregnated. You saw how I struggled to raise you on my own, and you saw no problem doing that to another woman. Your one decision almost ruined another woman and child's life. You don't deserve anything from me." "You know, I could contest that will of yours in court, right? I'll make sure to get something." "You don't think I'm stupid enough to let that happen, do you? You're a despicable person, and you need to get off my property right now before I get the cops involved." I shut the door in Chris's face and then numbly walked over to my room. I will not lie about how I felt. I was genuinely shocked to see Chris standing in front of my house. I had practically made peace with never seeing him ever again, and to see him there looking happy and healthy made all the pain and heartbreak I endured when he left come crashing down on me. I missed him, obviously. He was my son, But him confessing that he wasn't even here to make up for his mistakes, but for his inheritance, made my heart break all over again. Once again, I was struggling to understand where I went wrong when I was raising him. I wondered if there was anything that I could have done differently. Maybe I could have worked less, or I could have been a little more strict instead of being understanding and letting some things go. But then again, I knew that I did my absolute best to raise him in the best way that I knew. I had to provide for us, and if I didn't work as much as I did, we would have been in the streets. I had to remind myself that Chris was an adult when he made the decisions that he made, and even though he was still very young, there was never a time when I hinted that I wouldn't help him out. He had 14 years to right his wrong, but he chose not to. He chose to remain away from home. I don't know how he found out that I was sick, but there is one thing that I'm glad I did: rewriting my will. I managed to get myself together after that interaction, and I was even happier to see that Chris had left my property. By the time I had calmed down, Hannah and Adrian had come over. I told Hannah about what happened, and for the first time ever, I had seen her get angry. Hannah had the sweetest temper, and I had never seen her get angry. She was angry that Chris had the audacity to show up only to question his inheritance and not to express care for me. I was grateful that Hannah felt that way too. I was beginning to feel like I was overreacting. Hannah did ask me if I wanted her to confront him about his behavior, but I shot that down immediately. I saw no need to rehash the past. Confronting Chris would not change his mindset, and we were all happier living on our own terms with Chris out of the picture. The next few days were filled with anxiety for me because I was worried that Chris would randomly come over to talk again. But thankfully, that never happened. Hannah could tell that I was anxious and she was worried for my health, so she and Adrian stayed with me for the next week. It was nice having them back at home, and it reminded me all over again why I didn't want Chris to be a part of my life ever again. It's been about a month since I saw Chris, and things have gone back to normal again. I don't think he's still in town anymore, and even if he was, I don't care. I may have lost my son, but I know one thing for sure. I gained a daughter and a grandson, and nothing has made me happier than that.